Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be focused on Module 9 on education. And as we have been doing in the past few weeks, I'm going to take a few minutes to discuss some administrative issues related to assignments and quizzes, and then going a little bit into the content for this module. So administratively speaking, remember that your second reflection is due this coming Sunday, October 20th, that you still have the opportunity to complete quizzes 6 and 7. And remember that for quiz 6, I have given everyone a retake. You're not required to retake the quiz, but if you got a B or less, maybe you want to retake the quiz. Quiz number 7, I have already started. For those of you who submitted, I have already started going through your answers and making sure that you got the points that you deserve for the answers. So far, students are doing really great in both quizzes, quiz 6 and 7, or I would say the vast majority of students. So that makes me very happy. And I think also what I have been doing in the past 2 videos may be helping you a little bit in terms of specifically addressing some of the components or questions that are in the quiz. So on that note, I'm just going to let you know that for this module, the module on education, module 9, the quiz related to that module is quiz number 8. And if I know this is a time of midterm and that you guys are going to have probably a lot of activities and tasks from different courses, so to help you do well in the quiz, if you had to select one material to focus on, I would recommend the reading on Chulup Gonzalez et al., which is titled, Our Sons and Daughters Are Going to College, Latina Parents' Perceptions and Experiences Related to Building College Readiness, etc., etc., etc. So I would focus on that article, and you will see that if you read it, you're going to be able to answer, I would say, pretty much all the questions in quiz number 8. So that way it helps you to kind of focus and channel your energies a little bit better. And through our conversation today, I'll be highlighting a couple of points that will also help you answer some of the questions, right? So moving on to some content aspects for education, I first want to invite you to kind of reflect on a couple of things. I think this is probably one of the topics that is closest to your heart as you're still obviously in your undergraduate journey. And I want to have you think about what have been the factors that you think have helped you do well in college, and on the same hand, what are the factors that you think have been a barrier for you to do well in college? And if you could think about, what do you think happened in your high school experience that facilitated your entrance into college? And what also happened in your high school experience that did not facilitate your entrance into college? I think it's important to reflect about those issues because, as you know, if we lacked adequate knowledge and skills and resources that would help us prepare to go into college, most likely those are going to be carried throughout our college education. And that is why sometimes it's frustrating for both students and professors, because obviously professors, we don't have the whole picture of your education, so we don't really understand necessarily where your gaps are in learning. And it's also frustrating for the student because the student is expecting to perform well in their college education because the stakes are really high for a lot of you guys that are, for example, you're the first in your family to graduate, you're making immense financial sacrifices to be in school. So rightfully so, you want to do well. But there seems, and I think one of the articles gets into this, there seems to be like a disconnect in terms of students' expectations and what's really happening in undergraduate education. And I think it has to do with that, right? A lot of the times, instructors, we don't really know what are your gaps. And obviously, if I had many gaps in my high school education that would prepare me for college, given that college is more independent and you don't really have that like structured mentorship and that guidance as you did necessarily when you were in high school, that most likely will imply that you will carry some of those challenges or deficits in your college education. So it's important to think um, what really happened in your experience as a high school student that determine how well or your struggles that you're having in your undergraduate education. Unfortunately, um, I would say students of color, students from low as socioeconomic backgrounds, first generation students are still underrepresented in higher um, education, in spite of all the efforts that it seems the literature suggests that parents are doing. So, parents are one of the biggest factors, I would say, in shaping students' education outcomes and success um, in college education, particularly mothers. Mothers play a very critical role in Latino academic outcomes. So I think for the one part, we are having this, as some of the articles reflect, we are having like a genuine interest from parents to engage and be active and be concerned with their children's education. Still, we're having that doesn't really match the statistics that we're seeing in terms of dropout rates, in terms of success rates, and in terms of other barriers, underrepresentation in higher education. So something's really happening, and I think it's our role um, as social work professionals or as health professionals to kind of see what are the missing links, right? Is it something that parents and students are not receiving? Is it something that needs to happen? For example, is it that teachers and administration from school are not making resources, materials, conveying information in a way that's culturally appropriate and appropriate for the distinct levels and attributes of parents and adolescents, taking into account cultural variation? Is it that these statistics that are so negative to an extent bias like teachers and administrative staff views that, oh my god, minorities always fare worst, so how should we even care in giving them the necessary resources if it seems that they always fare worst? Is it possible that the barrage or the amount of negative statistics and negative um, outcomes that get published in the media and in academic journals, could that be also impacting or biasing our responses in the school system to um, how we address and how we target these challenges for underrepresented minorities, particularly Latinas and Latinos? So those are things that I really want you to think about. And I think it's really important, even if you're not in the social work field, right? Aside from the issue of social justice, in terms of the fact that children and adolescents from underrepresented groups might not get the same access to adequate education resources, right? Aside from that component, which is very pertinent for social workers, there is also the issue of how mental health relate to education, right? For example, if I have kids that are not properly nourished or are not receiving proper nutritional components, they might fare worse in school, right? If I have kids whose parents are stressed out because of immigration issues, right? They have to, it seems that the family is separated, they have recently moved into the United States. Some of them are dealing with issues of illegal immigration, they're trying to legalize their status in the US. That based also on your reflections, it seems that creates a lot of stress for families and the children. So maybe the parents, while they have the best interests, might not necessarily be in the right mindset to provide the emotional support that children need, right?